Welcome to the Beyond Belief series, where we're taking a soulful look at the Bible. Here we explore our divine existence and get real about the conversations we were once afraid to have. This is esoteric insight, truth-telling, and honest self-investigation. We're sharing how old fear-based stories have sparked an empowered shift in our awareness. It's going to be fun, y'all. It's live. It's safe to be here because we are definitely going beyond belief. You can find us live on YouTube Sundays at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and streaming on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and iHeartRadio. Be sure to follow the show, subscribe to the channel, and join the conversation. Leave us a kind rating or a comment if this speaks to your soul. All right, family, let's get into it. Welcome to the show. Hello. Welcome back to the show, everyone. This is the Beyond Belief series, where we have been taking a soulful look at the Bible scriptures and viewing them through an esoteric lens. And my amazing co-host, Da'Vette, who is a Christian mystic, an intuitive channeler, and a bridge walker between the realms. She's been channeling between worlds since she was 7 years old, and she brings a really fresh new perspective about the Bible, something that I loved to kind of talk about. I needed this fresh new perspective, and it's really your roadmap to your own existence, family. So I'm glad to have her alongside me co-hosting this series. But before we get into it, if this is your first time to the channel, tune it in. Thank you so much. Smash the subscribe button and the like button. And as my coach would say, put some positivity on your timeline. It helps to push out the content. And as I grow this amazing, informative, forward-thinking channel. So if you're a returning champion, thank you so much. Share this wonderful channel with someone that you love. Today, I'm so excited, y'all. I'm excited. I feel like a kid. You know why? Because I'm so honored to have Goddess Abiola Abrams, an award-winning author, transformational speaker, oracle creatrix, and international retreat leader, intuitive self-love coach who empowers people to find freedom from their personal fears, manifest authentic power, and align with their divine purpose. She has authored several books: African Goddess Initiation, Sacred Rituals for Self-Love, Prosperity, and Joy, From Imagination to Reality, and The Divine Frequency, the book that we have been talking about over the last several weeks. And guess what? Yes. She is also author of several oracle decks. African Goddess Rising deck. That's the first deck that came into my life, that set me into the oracle field. Also, The Secrets of the Ancestors, one of my favorite. My ancestors speak to me through these oracles. And also the latest is The Faces of Oshun. She is my coach and she is Ruby's mama. Welcome back to the show. Thank you. I'm so glad you're here. So glad you're here. I can't hear you, Goddess. Cut your mic on.
Can y'all hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes.
She's
I want to hear this big New York mouth all the way over there. Hello, guys. Hello, Goddess Da'Vette. I am excited about this conversation. So excited. Thank you for having me.
Yes, goodness. You both are so beautiful, and I'm so glad to have both of you all here. I talk about you to each other. It's so funny. I'm always because you both are always saying the same thing. Abiola's in this ear, Da'Vette's in this ear, and I'm like, we need to get you guys together. So yeah. Thank you for taking the time, Goddess Abiola, to sit with us and to talk about something very special in your book. So last week we were talking about the law of oneness. And so you suggest that you're never really alone. We are never alone. That is an illusion that we are alone. So I wanted to ask you first, when did you first realize that you were not alone?
Oh, okay. This is a good question.
Good question.
So I would say I'm remembering when I was like maybe about 10 years old. I'm thinking of two instances, but I'll share one when I was around 10 years old. My father is a Christian minister, and he is a minister in a denomination that is in the Caribbean known as Spiritual Baptist. I don't think there's AME is the closest here, but not really. It's a blend of African spiritual traditions with Christianity. And so he often had church in our home. He had a church in Brooklyn, New York, a physical church in Brooklyn, but he also had church in our home with my brother, my sister, and I, and my mom, because my mom is Catholic. So they had two very different messages. So for him to get his message into us, often he had to have church in the house. So very interesting. Very interesting.
That's funny.
Remember one living room church service. You know, we would go sometimes to church with my mom, and it was in Latin. So we're sitting there, we don't know what's going on, but it was exciting because I love the ritual of
Yep.
it and all of that. And then I would go with my neighbors, who were all like people who their folks came up on the Great Migration from down south. So to a lot of Southern Baptist churches. So we would go and, you know, get our Southern Baptist on, and then we'd be in the living room with that. So I remember him telling us, you know, he said a lot of things, and as a kid, you're like, blah, 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 blah. But this one sermon conversation stuck in my mind and in my heart, where he said, God is not, you know, up there like Santa Claus, you know, making a list and checking it twice and judging you. And, you know, he's like, you know, God is not like just some white man that's out somewhere, you know, judging you. He was like, you know, put your hand on your heart. He's like, God is here. He's like, God is within us. Like, he's like, do you feel that? And I felt that when he said that, like, I felt it. Like, I didn't know what I felt, but I felt something. And it was just, you know, for me, like at that moment, it was very strongly like, wow, okay, I'm not alone. Like, wow, okay, wait, I'm putting my hand over my heart and I'm feeling God here. But you're also telling, you know, my sister, my brother, like my mom, like we're all putting our hands over our hearts. So wow, so God is here and God is there, and God is here. And God is, you know, like it was just amazing to me. And for whatever reason, like blew my 10-year-old mind. And I was just like, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
It was really, yes, an awakening at that moment, you know?
Yeah, that's really good at 10 years old to be at 10 years old. I think I can remember not wanting to be here because I did not feel connected. And last week, the vet asked questions. She's always asking these questions that trigger me to go deeper. And so she asked me a question, and I actually revealed a shadow. You know, I talked about it on the show, and I normally don't do that. She goes a little deep, and I am that one that's been hiding the shadow because I'm judging myself. So I wanted to talk about the law of the shadow. I didn't know that there was a law of the shadow until I started reading this book. And so this book it's saving my life. I want to be honest about that. It's really saving my life. So I would like for you to expand. How did you come up with, or let me ask you this. Let's talk about the law of the shadow. What inspired you to write that chapter?
Yes. So I think that so many of us grew up with not being able to discern the difference between our inner voices, you know, and the voices outside of us. And especially when it comes to, we're talking about young Black girls growing up in a system, in a country, in a, you know, whatever it is, where everything around you is talking about what is broken and what is wrong with you. Right. So we grew up, and if a man is looking at you and you're a child, it's not something wrong with the man. You fast. What are you doing? Adjust your shirt. Adjust your skirt. You know, why are you looking? What are you walking over there? What are you doing? You know, and so almost like every single thing that we were doing was wrong. Our hair, our skin, who we're looking at, who we're playing with. Why are you doing this? Don't do that. Like all of the attention that we got was somehow, you know, either corrective, because if you have to be corrected, something is wrong or broken about you, or, you know, things that made us feel uncomfortable in our very skin, in our very bodies. You know, a lot of us developed early and received then unwanted attention and started, like, I remember like consciously like slumping and trying to walk, you know, different. So that, you know, like my body wouldn't show out or whatever, or, you know, just all of those things. And so when there are so many exterior voices, so many voices that are, and even if you were lucky enough to have someone, a parent, a teacher, or someone who said, just love yourself, nobody told us how. Because how do you do that when every single voice is saying that there is something wrong with you? Even our music was telling us there's something wrong with us. The music videos, like every single thing was telling us that we are wrong, that we were broken, that we are either you're too fast, too slow, too this, too that. And if, oh my God forbid you were a smart girl, then, then now that's a whole other set of problems.
Yes, a new dynamic.
And then it's, well, who do you think you are? Oh, you think you're better than ever. It was just, it's just a nonstop thing. And so it is helpful when we are able to then look at the fact that there are spiritual laws that govern this universe, that the laws don't care if you agree with them or believe in them or not. So just like there's the law of gravity doesn't care whether you say, I don't believe in gravity. Well, that's fine.
Yeah.
But if you pick something up, it's wrong. And so I wanted to study the universal laws throughout different cultures to find the commonalities, because if they're believing something in South Africa and they're believing it in Egypt and they're believing it, in, Persia, and and then you see the threads that are pulled throughout. And one of those laws is the law of the shadow. And it's very powerful when you start to look at the fact that there is a shadow self, a shadow healing needs to happen. There is an energetic force that is not bad or wrong or broken. It's things coming up to be healed that you need to heal in order to evolve to your next level. Then it's okay, something isn't wrong with me. Like I am not broken. I am not, wrong or bad or broken or evil or any of those things. The things that are coming up to be healed are coming up for my betterment, for my encouragement, for my empowerment. And if we look through, the Bible, that there are, all kinds of stories about the shadow, like a lot of those stories, it's there. Once you start to look at the universal laws, they are everywhere. They're everywhere.
That's the reason why we actually started to use the book, because Da'Vette is like, this is evidence of the laws. So I want Da'Vette to get in there, because she always talks about the Bible, and see me in the Bible and church and Christianity, so I have my hand up. And so it wasn't until now that she starts to break down these scriptures and she said to me, the Bible is about you, sister. And I'm like, girl, what you talking about? What is it? What you want to say? You over there like shaking, like I know you about to bust.
Yeah, listen, because she's speaking my language now. I'm telling you, you're my dose of medicine. I just love it because so long we have segregated ourselves and felt that there needed to be some kind of exclusivity, some club to be in. And church has hurt a lot of people with those kinds of beliefs. But when you look at the book itself and you understand allegories and mysticism, then you can apply the laws, and then they make so much sense. So we're talking about the shadow law. Well, Isaiah talks about it, and I think 45:3, I think it is. It's like it's somewhere where it says, I will give you the treasure of darkness, meaning that that the wounds that you have, they're covering up your gifts. You got to do the work. And so it makes sense when you can explain to someone who's a mystic Christian or someone who's trying to believe something bigger than themselves, and they're going through, what does this mean for me? Well, baby, it means you got to do the work. There's some work that has to be done so that your greater gifts can be seen, and you can understand and hear your voice, the oneness voice that's inside of you. And that's what it's all about. I love talking about this stuff.
Yes. Yes. Oh my gosh. Like even when you were saying like the law of oneness, when we look at the New Testament, for example, and if you read, that, Jesus Christ said, all of these things that I have done and more, you can do too. That's oneness. That is it. That is the crux right there of the law of oneness. Like, don't look at me and say, wow, how great you are. Look
Yeah.
look at me and say, wow, how great I am. That is me as
Yes.
well.
Yes.
Like,
Yes. And it's just, it's in the New Testament, it's in the Old Testament. Well, like Psalms 86 and 1, where it says that, did I not say you're God's? Like you're
yes,
God. And then he goes back over in John 10 and something and says, did I
I
not
have that in
say in
the
your
book.
book that you are God?
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
this is the law of oneness, and the law of oneness continues to make you want to work on those things that you have to work on. That's what Earth School is about. That's what your soul gets excited about. Your soul gets excited about working on itself, to know itself in this situation, to remember itself in this situation, to remember itself in this situation. You cannot be away from me. Oh, you can't be away from me in that? Nope, not in that either. That's
That's
deliciousness.
Yes.
deliciousness. She loves it. I love it too. I appreciate it because that shadow came about. I know now that I don't have to be afraid to offer that. I think that whenever I am honest about what's going on with me, it just gives someone permission to do it and to feel safe enough to actually take a look at their shadow, because I believe that if I leave the shadow in the shadow, that I'm going to offer it as a projection, as fear, as anger. I'm going to offer it as a projection in my relationship. And that I don't want to do. Instead, I don't want to do that. So it's very important for me to kind of to heal these things. And so I wanted to
Yeah.
ask another question. I got all of these questions, but this question, I wanted to know, did you purposely put the shadow, the chapter 23, the law of the shadow, at the end of the book?
Yes.
Rather than at the big, and why? Good.
Yes, absolutely. For
Good
me,
question.
I wanted the shadow chapter. I thought that it was a law that should go in the beginning of the book. My intention was to start off with the law of the shadow, then to go into the 7 hermetic laws that are at the beginning, and then take the journey from there. But Spirit said, "Oh no, child,
Okay.
that's not how we're doing it," because it was necessary to take the journey through all of the other laws in order to be fortified to do the shadow work at the end. So
Wow.
Spirit said to me that if that's in the beginning, some folks are going to be scared off. Right? Some people are going to be scared off that's a scary place to be, to go, okay, the things that we don't want to look at, now telling them as soon as they, jump into this journey to go and look at these things that we've repressed, that we've stuffed down, that we've said are bad or wrong or ugly, or to look at that stuff, they won't make it through the rest of the journey. So you have
Wow.
be a progression where people have the journey and go on the journey, and then when they feel like, okay, I'm fortified, I have these tools, like it's like if you go when you go through the laws, you're
Yeah.
picking up a tool along with each and every one. It's like, okay, now I've got the tools, now
Yeah.
I can go in and into the shadow.
Yeah.
That was
Yes.
a good
Oh gosh.
question I asked there, and that was an even better answer. I'm like, why
A
is this at
great
the
answer.
end? Yeah, that's a great answer because, yeah, I'm all about those. I read the contents of the book. I want to know what I'm reading first. So, of course, I looked at the Law of Shadow, and I didn't even deal with it first. Sometimes I go into the books in different places, but I didn't even deal with that. I'm just like, I'm not dealing with the shadow. But after we start, it's so true. It's so true. Spirit knows, your ancestors know. We can't make none of this up. I'm not making this up because I actually felt that when I looked at the shadow. I was like, I'm not even going there. I did. I did. Why does this matter so much, Devette? Why does this matter? Why does this shadow part, understanding the shadow, understanding how it resonates in the Bible, why does it matter so much for us, Devette?
That's a great question. But I gotta piggyback on
Okay.
those chapter sequences. I love that because I remember Deb saying to me, "Oh, why do we have to come here with this amnesia?" And I'm like, well, do you really want to know that you're going to have a heart attack at 52, when you're 8 months old and trying to? feed,
Yeah, I
Like,
do
who
remember
really
you
wants
saying
that?
that.
And so there's a progression of life, steps and stages, and it makes sense that the book would offer the steps and stages first before you go into the deep shadow work of yourself. This is why this is important to go to the question. This is important because I love the way Carl Jung says it's becoming you know
Yes.
but it takes you going through trying to figure out who you are and having those experiences shape you so that then
Mhm.
you can really see that wasn't me.
Yes.
That wasn't me, really. No, who you are is God. And how powerful you are, you get to wield the God power. So why are you shrinking? And so, but if you know that too early on in your 3-year-old journey, that's quite confusing to the rest of mankind. So it would be out of order. And everything in the universe, everything is done decent and in order.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Mm.
Absolutely. I love that you said decent and in order. That is beautiful.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And that's
Mhm.
what the Bible says.
Mhm.
It's
Mhm.
all of these hidden truths in here that keeps us from opening up the book and then pairing it with the divine book of your divine book and seeing the similarities instead of seeing the differences, seeing where this is truly saying the exact same thing that your soul is thirsty for.
Yes.
Mhm. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
That's
That's
an
true.
wow.
Yeah.
Well, of course, because I
Yeah.
have all of the questions, I got more. I listen, everywhere in my career, I've always been a question asker all the time. And when I learned, I went into my Akashic record and I learned that this is where you ask, this is where all of the answers are. So all of these questions that I've been asking, sometimes people used to try to make me feel some type of way because I'm always asking questions, because I'm always seeking. I want to know, I want to
Yes.
understand. So can either of you, because I know I can, and I think I'm going to do it here, but can either of you share a personal shadow integration moment? When you were welcoming that hidden part of yourself and it really shifted you profoundly. Can either of you answer that? Share a personal shadow integrative moment?
Okay, let me see if I can think of one. I would say definitely a big shadow integration that I personally had was around well, this is an interesting thing. So we talked earlier about being smart. Now, all of us have labels that we grow up with, right? And I have a
Mhm.
3-year-old, as Goddess Deborah knows. So I try very hard to not let people label her because they want to do that. You're the
Yes.
shy one, you're the
Yes.
pretty one, you're the this one, you're the that one. So I try not to let folks label her. And so one of the labels that I had was growing up the smart one, like being the smart one. And then I remember in middle school when I went to a different school, moved from public school to private school, being like one of the smartest kids in public school to being in private school with people who had, private tutors and a different level of education and all of that. And being really intimidated because my label, my whole identity was wrapped up in being smart. And so I didn't know who then, I was, and had like a lot of challenges with that. And then an interesting shift then happened as a teen girl being older, that then you don't want to be the smart one because you want to, and consciously I remember dumbing myself down, like pretending in front of boys that I wanted to like me, that I was dumb or stupid, or, like that I didn't have, the answer to things,
Wow.
stuff like that, in order to make them feel comfortable around me. And that went into adulthood in different ways, in different formats, making them feel comfortable by making myself less than.
Mhm. Mhm.
So having to, yes, in many different ways.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
y'all know what I'm
I
saying.
know. I'm over here like, girl, you are preaching to me. Did you live my life?
Yes. Yes.
So
For sure.
having a healing, when you get older, for me, like a big healing was when you get to the point of being like, this is me unapologetically. Like, I'm not going to make myself smaller or less than or shrink in order to make other people feel comfortable, whoever they are, that this is me. And so that was definitely a shadow that I had many different layers around that I needed to heal, that I needed to integrate, that I needed
Yeah.
to, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
What about you,
Yeah.
Da'Vette?
Well, I have many, but I love the last part of her answer, that I had to integrate. I don't think we often think of shadow work as being so layered, and how how those layers have to be integrated into. So I definitely wanted to say something about that, because that was beautiful. Thank you, sister. I have had many moments, of integration that had to happen. I think one of the most poignant moments was when Raphael was murdered. Losing him and being a widow at 30 was traumatic. A lot of healing had to go on with that. And it took years of therapy. Took me going within, because traditional therapy wasn't helping. The church couldn't explain it. And it was my soul awakening, and me being like Jonah in the well, in myself. I couldn't run. You just have to face yourself. And I think those were some of those moments that I had for myself. But there are other moments, smaller moments, moments that weren't so poignant, but there was still integration. There was still a lesson. There was still learning. There was still me having to accept this part of me, because that's really what the shadow work is, integrating it inside of you and seeing that all of these things make you whole, not make you a fragment of
Broken.
anything. They make you whole. Yeah.
I learned that whenever I went to, I'm going to share a moment. It was when I was at Abiola's retreat, and I was so scared, but I have always been coined the person that will help someone. I'm going to make sure that someone gets connected to the right people. And I have been coined the smart one, the strong one. And so we were coming into group, and I had been awakened in the middle of the night in my room with a lot of stuff from this sexual abuse that I experienced as a child. And so when I went into, I was a little late. And so when I went into the group, Abiola was talking about that very thing. And I was like, oh my God, I am not going to say anything. I cannot say anything. And I just felt so ashamed to say anything in front of all of these women that had come so far. We had trekked up a mountain in the snow, and I felt so small. I did not want to say anything. So it just imagine, 20, maybe 23 women sitting in a beautiful circle. Where would she begin first? Where would she begin first? To the lady that was next to me. And I thought, my God, I mean, I'm saying all of this now. I looked very poised, but in my head, I was just like, she could not possibly, this is happening. This is happening. And so the young lady spoke. Yeah. And I told the story just like it is. I was awakened, and it would be so likely that I come in here and you're talking about this topic. And I told about my abuse, and I just really wept. I was so ashamed and embarrassed. And Abiola came over to me, and she cradled me like I was Ruby. I mean, big old me. She cradled me in her arms and just let me weep. And I wept because I was afraid, but I was releasing all of the fear, the shame. And she was like, you don't have to be ashamed of anything. You have done nothing wrong. How could you know as a child? She just brought all of it to me, all of this moment where it was just profound to me. It shifted, and I got up and I was like, I let that go. Of course, all of the women that were there, we embraced each other. We were there for each other, but that was really a pivotal moment in my life, talking about releasing a shadow. I had been carrying that shadow pretty much all of my life, and it actually just never existed because I had hidden it so deeply that the abuser said this doesn't exist. This is not it did not happen. So it did not happen at that age. And so that was a really big moment for me. I really appreciate that. This is important to talk about it because somebody's going to hear this and know that your shadow is speaking to you. This is not a part that you have to run away from. This is something that is a part of you and that you have to heal. And that little girl in me, she was so strong and powerful at that time. And I learned that I am to talk to her and appreciate her. Yeah. All right. I don't want to get too mushy because I can, I start crying up in here.
No, get mushy, get
So
mushy.
like in that day at the retreat, where by you being open and being courageous, you gave the other women permission to be open and courageous. Somebody who is watching this, you're also giving them permission to say, wow, okay, to be courageous about themselves and about the things that they stuff down and hide and pretend
Yes. I
don't
think we lost
exist.
her. She'll come back in.
Uh-oh.
Yes.
She will come
I
back
just
in.
I'm so sorry. I love that you were that courageous,
Mm-hmm.
I love the
Mm-hmm.
word that she chose to use because opening up your shadow self to yourself is one thing. Opening up your shadow self to someone that you just met, totally
Yeah.
different thing. And when you understand how deep that cuts, how healing those moments are. Wow. Yeah. Deb, that touched me. I have
Yeah.
opened up to you about some very deep things, but to do it in a room with 30 other women, my Lord, you just you gave them
Welcome back,
so
sister.
much hope. I love
Yes,
it.
I did. It did. It opened up, it gave permission to some other ladies that were in there that talked about
Mm,
it, and they had been holding it for so long. And that's how why I started to say, well, this is not even about you. And when I was awakened in the middle of the night, it was like spirit was telling me, it's not about you, it's bigger than you. You cannot, you can't
mhm,
hide anymore. You have to talk. And I'm like, what are you saying? It's about somebody else. Nobody, me, I'm going back and having this dialogue and really trying to resist it. But the moment that I just surrendered and I just let
mhm.
go, it really, really, it helped me. It was profound for me, but it was also profound for someone else. So yeah, I really, really
Yeah.
like that. So I wanted to ask the audience, I'm always posing the questions to the audience. When you feel triggered or annoyed by someone, could it be that your own shadow is calling for recognition? Sometimes we're always looking at somebody as, oh, she get on my nerves, or he gets on my nerve. He's doing this, he's doing that, she's doing this. Could it be your own shadow that's calling for recognition? That's a really good question to the audience. Think about that. And
Yeah.
also, if your
Absolutely.
shadow could speak right now, what would it say to you? What would your shadow say to you if it could speak right now? You know? And I think that one of my shadows is saying, bless you, I am here. Don't ignore me. I am present. You know what I mean? Not to ignore me, because I did a meditation in the Akashic records and I kind of sat with, myself, and it was saying that I'm here and I have served a purpose for you. Don't
Mhm.
ignore me. But what I said to my shadow is that I appreciate and love you and respect that you are here, but we are going to work in a different way now, not in a way that's going to scare me, that's going to make me feel small, or that I'm going to shrink, but we're going to do some great things together. I was told to say that to my shadow. So yeah. Well, I don't want to keep us very long. We cannot be very long. This is a very, very short set here. And so I want to thank you, Miss Abiola, for coming here, for taking the time, sister, to come back to the Fear to Freedom Project. You being in my life has been so profound. And I know that my ancestors, just like all of my goddess sisters, it's not just me. Hey, goddess sisters, I love you. We are a family, and we were all blessed to get connected to Abiola. It's been very healing for me, and it's been very exciting for me as well. So I want to thank you for coming here. Is there anything that you want to leave with the audience? Maybe if someone's trying to work on their shadow? Is there something that, well, I could tell you right now, y'all can go pick the book up. Okay. I had some of my pickleball friends over here yesterday, and I, was talking about all my books. I'm just spreading all my books around and saying, look, and then one of them grabbed this book and say, well, can I take this one home? Well, no, you can't take my books home. You cannot. I am like Jean Carson, my mother. You're going to have to sign this book out. You got to put your name down, sign it out, put the date on it. That's how my mother shared her books. You had to
Oh, I
put your
love
name
that.
down here. Yeah. So I am now going to be shipping this book to someone. Not that you can take my book, no. But I love this book because there's a lot of ways to integrate. There's a lot of tools that you can use, right? This is not just you're reading and someone's telling you what to do or telling you about, history and culture and philosophy and all of that. No, 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 no. This book is a tool book.
Yeah.
You need to get it. Yes, it is. It's so that you can learn about that. So is there anything you want to leave with the audience?
So first of all, oh my gosh, this conversation was like a good meal. Like I am so full and so enjoyed this conversation. This was beautiful. Thank you for this. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
You're welcome.
If anything, I would want to just leave the audience with, the crux of what we're talking about, which is that, nothing is wrong with you. You are not broken. You are not bad or wrong or tainted. There is nothing wrong with you. Trust me, you are not the one faulty thing that the Creator made. You were fashioned in the image and the likeness of the Most High, the most beautiful force of love that there is. And so I'm just getting full body chills. And so that being said, you are beautiful. You are perfect in all of your imperfections. You are wonderfully made. And you have come forward. You have come forward at a time such as this, at this moment.
Yes.
To learn the lessons that you came forward to learn. So just because you came forward with those divine assignments, and some of them may seem challenging, some of them may seem like the road is long, some of them may seem difficult or tough, it does not mean that something is wrong with you. It just means that you have a stronger assignment that you have been given, and you would not have been given it if you were not capable of it. And so sometimes you may need to take a break. You may need to retreat. You may need to reset, but don't ever quit. Don't ever quit.
Yes.
Hold on. Keep on keeping on. Hold on. Hold on.
Don't you quit out there. Don't you ever quit. What you got to say? You got to leave something with the audience. I know you always leaving a treatment or something. You got something to leave with the audience today?
There's an ancestor that's coming through, and it's actually Abiola's ancestor, and it's a patriarchic ancestor from the 1500s. And he was as smart as Nostradamus, but was very, he wasn't known, but he says he reincarnated in you. And that's why your cosmic information comes so clearly to you. And that's why you've always felt that little weirdness that you can always figure out. But it's that direct connection to his lineage. And he's just jumping up. He's so ecstatic to see you, see your face, to hear your voice. And so from that ancestor, you keep going. When you're encouraging someone else, you remember to encourage yourself, because sometimes in the crux of your mind, you will forget. He says, honor yourself always. That's all I had to say. Yeah.
Okay, I felt all of that. Okay. Yeah, wow. Thank you so
Massively
much.
intelligent.
Massively. We can tell. Massively intelligent. If your shadow could speak to you, what would it say? This chapter right here, the law of the shadow, invites you to stop running and turn inward. Meet the parts of you that you have been conditioned to fear. The law of the shadow teaches us that what we don't own will own us. That's the genius of this law. Pick up a copy of the book. Send this book to somebody that you love. Pick it up now. It'll be in the show notes. You'll have a link. You won't have to do nothing but click. We live in a clickbait world. So just click the button. Thank you so much for joining us this week on Beyond Belief. I hope this something that you heard in this conversation stirred up your soul and brought you closer to your divine oneness. And me and Da'Vette will be here next week, same time, same place. Goddess Abiola, I love you. You have a standing invitation to the Fear to Freedom Project. I
Yes.
love you, sister.
Thank you for that beautiful gift, Goddess Da'Vette. I appreciate it. I love you too,
Oh,
Goddess. Thank you.
yes. Soul
You're
sister.
welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good
All
day.
right. Peace and love to next Sunday. I love you, family. All right. We're out of here.